According to the Canadian Diabetes Association, 1 in 4 Canadians is living with the disease. And while there's no cure for diabetes, it can be managed through proper diet, exercise, and medication if needed. This week, ATR takes an in-depth look at this very complex disease. Helen Rogers is a diabetes educator with the Prairie North Health Region. She works to support people in our area living with the disease.
Certainly, I think with the diagnosis criteria that we have in Canada now and the prevalence of screening for diabetes, we don't have near as many people walking around not knowing that they have it, but there will always be a certain group of people who don't know they have diabetes. Type 1 diabetes, the onset is usually much quicker, and within a fairly short order of time, an individual is sick enough that they're seeking medical attention, and boom, we find out that they have quite a high blood sugar.
In type 1 diabetes, the pancreas stops producing insulin, which means the body can't metabolize carbohydrates. People living with type 1 take daily insulin injections to survive. Jim Harvey's son has type 1 diabetes. It's affected his eyesight, leaving him almost completely blind in just a few short months.
He has really dense cataracts that he's been waiting now for a couple of months to get in for some surgery in Edmonton. He went from, well, about 4 months ago to being able to see to today, where if you hold 2 fingers up in front of his face, he can't tell you how many fingers. So it really progressed quickly.
In general, diabetes really is a disease of the blood vessels. High blood sugars clog up little tiny blood vessels, the capillaries, which leads to nerve damage. And when we have nerve damage, then we have tissue damage. And that's why diabetes can affect the heart, the lungs, the kidneys, the feet. And so diabetes is actually a multitude of potential conditions.
He's had the neuropathy, I believe it's called, where it affects his nerves. He has some nerve damage and stuff too. And apparently that is from when you've had it and it's sort of been out of control. And you know, he didn't know he had type 1 until he went in about 4 months ago and they actually diagnosed it. So his doctor thinks that he's had it for quite an extended period of time. To have that type of nerve damage.
The largest category of diabetes is type 2, and it happens when the pancreas doesn't produce enough insulin or the body is unable to use the insulin properly or effectively.
Potentially people who, who are not accessing medical care on a regular basis could walk around for quite a while not knowing they have it, and typically they'll often present with a major infection problem, a cold that's turned into pneumonia, a skin irritation that's turned into a very nasty boil, various things like that. Or they could have symptoms like frequent urination, extreme thirst that they can't seem to appease with anything, and those all become signs and symptoms that eventually would send them to the doctor, and they would get screened, and lo and behold, we find they have type 2 diabetes.
Rhodey Cran's doctor tested him for type 2 diabetes after Rhodey realized that he was experiencing common symptoms.
I've read a lot of books on diabetes and so on, and a lot of frequent going to the bathroom and this type of thing, and I figured there got to be something wrong, and got tested done, and sure enough I was a diabetic. But I'm not I don't have to take needles every day, but I do have to take a bunch of medication every day.
The burden of diabetes can be very large for some people, and any support that we can provide these people is really, really important to help them carry on a day-to-day basis doing what I sometimes see would feel like a full-time job to look after diabetes, to look after their own diabetes.
You got to be careful what goes in your mouth. And it's just like everybody tells you, healthy living, right? So get lots of vegetables and get lots of good food, lean meat, and so on and so forth. And I'm in the season of the turkey suppers, and that's another one that you kind of, holy Lord, now look at all that stuffing there, right? And so, yeah, you're living in a world. It's like if a person was an alcoholic, they could stop the intake of alcohol. But when you're a diabetic, you don't stop the intake of food, but you've got to monitor what it is that's going into your mouth. Everything that I could do before I was diagnosed with diabetes, I could do everything, and I still can. And I think if you keep on your diet and sensible eating, I call it, it's going to work out. To me, it seems to be pretty good, really good.
The good news is people with diabetes in our area can get the support they need from the team at the Prairie North Health Region, which is made up of dietitians, diabetes nurse educators, the STRIDES program, and more.
We are, working, I think, very, very well together to provide a package deal for people with diabetes and sort of expedite and streamline the services and care that we can provide. In the fight against diabetes, certainly in the type 2 category, if you know you have family members who have struggled with diabetes or been diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, the big thing is the basics of the lifestyle issues of a healthy diet, healthy amount of physical activity, healthy rest, and just a general, good balance in your lifestyle can help you ward that off. And then, of course, regular visits to your physician, for your annual medical, and you get screened and get checked. And if something's showing up in the blood work, you can pick it up really early, and you get on to appropriate treatment, and away you go.
The Canadian Diabetes Association encourages anyone over the age of 40 to get tested, even if you aren't showing classic symptoms of the disease. And when ATR comes back from this quick break, we're going to take a look at new research and trends in diabetes care.